My name is Genevieve. I'm 38, and up until 3 months ago, I still thought being a good wife meant showing up even when I was falling apart. It happened on a cold Tuesday morning. I lost the baby. Our second pregnancy? Gone. 5 years of fertility treatments, 5 miscarriages, and this one. This one was supposed to be different. We'd made it past the first trimester. We'd started picking names. The ER doctor was kind. He held my hand when Daniel didn't. Daniel, my husband of 7 years, stood in the corner of the room, arms crossed like he was watching a rerun of a show he'd already seen. "She'll be okay," he told the nurse. "She lost her baby," she replied, her voice sharper than his comfort deserved. We drove home in silence. I remember pressing my palm against my belly the whole way, not because I thought the baby might still be there, but because I didn't know where else to put the grief. That night, I barely slept. I laid curled on the bathroom floor, nauseous from the pain meds, bleeding through layers of pads, shivering under a towel because I couldn't make it back to bed. Daniel didn't check on me once. By Friday, I was still on the couch, too weak to shower, when I heard his phone buzz. Then came his voice, chipper and rehearsed. "Yeah, we're still good for New Year's. Jenna's fine, just resting." "Yeah, of course, we'll be there." I looked up from my blanket. "Wait, what? You told them we're going to the cabin?" He blinked at me like I was the crazy one. "It's just a few days," he said. "Might help you get your mind off everything. The whole family's expecting us." My jaw dropped. I just lost our baby. He shrugged. "You don't have to do anything. Just be there. Smile a little. Mom's already planned the meals." I almost laughed. Meals. That woman hadn't cooked a meal in years. Planned meant I'd be in the kitchen while she criticized my chopping technique. I was still bleeding, for God's sake. But it didn't stop there. Later that day, I got a text from Nancy, my mother-in-law. No hello, no, how are you feeling? Just, "Don't forget your famous ginger carrot soup. It's Daniel's favorite. And maybe bring those rosemary rolls from last year, too. They were a hit." I stared at the screen, stunned. I hadn't even gotten the all clear from my OB yet. I was still on bed rest, still waking up with cramps and tears in my throat. And she wanted soup. I didn't respond. Instead, I curled up tighter and thought about how this family had always treated me, like I was an accessory to their perfect little photo albums. Daniel's quiet Asian wife who makes great food and never complains. The truth is, I had complained. Quietly. In small ways. I had cried in bathrooms, left dinner early, once even said no to Thanksgiving hosting when I had the flu. But nothing ever changed. So when Daniel came back into the living room later that evening, arms full of his snowboarding gear and excitement in his voice, I looked at him and realized something terrifying. He was already over it. Not just the miscarriage. Me. "You should start packing," he said, not even noticing I hadn't moved all day. "We leave Sunday morning." I looked at him, really looked, and felt something snap inside of me. It wasn't loud. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a plate. But something broke. Something that had been holding me in this marriage, in this role, in this family. And all I said was, "Sure, I'll get ready." He smiled, satisfied. Kissed the top of my head like I was a golden retriever. He had no idea. Because what I meant wasn't, "I'll get ready for the trip." I meant, "I'll get ready to leave you." We left for the cabin at 6:45 a.m. sharp. Daniel was in good spirits. Chatty, upbeat, sipping coffee from a travel mug while I sat in the passenger seat, hollowed out in silence. I hadn't packed much. Just enough to make it look like I was playing along. Toothbrush, sweatshirt, a pair of jeans, and the prescription painkillers I still needed every 4 hours. The car ride took 4 hours. Not once did he ask how I was feeling. Not once. When we arrived, his mother greeted us with her usual air kiss routine and that too-sweet voice she reserves for holiday appearances. She hugged Daniel tight, then turned to me with a practiced smile and a glint in her eye. "You look pale, dear. Hope you're not catching something, she said, already turning her back on me. We can't have you ruining the weekend with bad energy. Bad energy. I clenched my teeth and followed them inside. The Whitmore family cabin was like a Hallmark movie set. Stone fireplace, garlands everywhere, matching plaid stockings with embroidered names. Mine said Jenna, but the thread was frayed, like someone had tried to pull it off once and gave up halfway. The others trickled in over the next few hours. Ashley and her 2 kids, Daniel's brother, his girlfriend, a cousin. Everyone brought wine. No one brought compassion. By dinner, I was already exhausted. My back hurt from the car ride. My abdomen ached in ways that reminded me every 5 minutes what I'd lost. And yet, there I was, being asked to help out in the kitchen since you're not chasing after toddlers. So I peeled potatoes. With shaking hands, I chopped carrots, while Nancy hovered, correcting the angle of my knife. You used to be so meticulous, she said, in that tone people use when they're pretending not to insult you. Maybe you just need to snap out of this little fog. This little fog. I almost sliced my finger clean off. Instead, I set the knife down and excused myself. Walked into the small guest room Daniel and I were assigned, closed the door, and sat on the bed, staring at the wall. And for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to admit it. I was never going to be enough for this family. Not pretty enough, not cheerful enough, not resilient enough. Not enough for Daniel either. He didn't come check on me. Not during dinner. Not when the sound of laughter spilled down the hallway and I sat there, knees to chest, crying into a scratchy pillow that smelled like cedar and mildew. At 10:37 p.m., he finally walked in. Didn't ask why I hadn't eaten. Didn't mention the painkillers I'd left in the bathroom. Just shrugged off his coat, kicked off his shoes, and flopped into bed. You okay? He mumbled. I stared at the ceiling. Sure. Good, he said, and fell asleep in 5 minutes flat. And that's when I knew. I wasn't broken. I was abandoned. There's a difference. The next morning, I woke early and walked into the kitchen to find Ashley already making coffee. She looked surprised to see me. Feeling better? She asked. I nodded. I'd help more, but 2 kids, she said, motioning vaguely toward the living room. Anyway, Mom's got brunch planned. She was hoping you'd make your quiche again. Of course she was. I nodded again, walked back to the room, closed the door, sat on the bed, and pulled out my phone. I still had the business card, my dad's friend, the lawyer. I texted him one word. Ready. Then I packed my bag. Just one. A small overnight bag with the essentials, wallet, pills, one clean shirt, and a folder I'd started filling quietly over the last 6 months. Screenshots of texts, photos, voice memos. Things I'd collected when I couldn't sleep. Things I hadn't planned to use. Until now. I slipped the bag into the back of the car while everyone else was busy setting the table. No one noticed. Then I returned to the kitchen and wrote a note. Just one line. I'm not making quiche. I'm making a change. I left it under the salt shaker. By the time they sat down to eat, I was already halfway back down the mountain. No calls, no goodbyes, and no regrets. I didn't cry on the drive down the mountain. That surprised me. I thought I'd fall apart the moment the trees disappeared in the rear view, or when my phone buzzed with missed calls. But nothing. Just silence. A strange, clean silence, like the quiet after a storm tears through a town and all that's left is debris and sky. Daniel texted once. Where'd you go? I didn't answer. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb and kept driving until the winding mountain roads flattened into town traffic. Then I pulled into the parking lot of a small motel off Highway 22, the kind with peeling paint and one sad vending machine humming by the front office. It was perfect. I checked in under my maiden name. The clerk didn't ask questions. He handed me the key without looking up, and for the first time in years, I felt invisible in a way that felt safe instead of small. Inside the room, I dumped my bag on the floor and collapsed onto the bed. My body ached. My head throbbed. And somewhere deep in my gut, the last traces of the miscarriage still reminded me that I was not okay. But I was finally somewhere they couldn't reach me. That night, I opened the folder. My quiet collection of receipts, messages, and screenshots. Things I used to save just to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. Like the time Daniel said, "Why do you always need me to comfort you?" It's not like I can fix it, right after my first miscarriage, or when Nancy left a voicemail calling me emotionally exhausting for not hosting Christmas the year I was on bed rest. I listened to that voicemail twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. The next morning, I drove to a little cafe in the center of town where I'd arranged to meet him. Don Tran, my dad's old friend. He was already waiting when I got there, a black folder in front of him, a kind smile that didn't ask too much. We got down to business. He explained my options clearly. I had legal grounds for separation. I'd paid for over 60% of our shared assets. The cabin we vacationed in, partially in my name. The joint savings, mostly funded by my teaching job and side tutoring. And the best part? Daniel had no idea. He thought I was the one who'd fall apart if he ever walked away. He had no clue I'd been building a separate account for 3 years. No clue I'd quietly transferred key assets. No clue I'd been saving myself in little pieces, just in case I ever got brave enough to walk. "I'm in," I told Dawn. "File everything." We shook hands. I stepped back into the winter air, and for the first time in a long time, I breathed without guilt filling my lungs. But the universe apparently wasn't done testing me. When I got back to the motel, there were 8 missed calls from Daniel, 5 from Nancy, 1 from Ashley, then a text from Daniel. "If you're trying to hurt me, it's working. I just told Mom what happened. She's upset, but we can fix this. Come back so we can talk. Please." And then he sent a photo, a selfie. Him, standing in front of my parents' old house, my mother's house, the one I hadn't returned to since she passed away 3 years ago. The one that was now on the edge of foreclosure because I'd been secretly paying her mortgage behind Daniel's back to keep her legacy alive. And Daniel, smiling like a child holding a broken toy, was there. Saw the overdue notices in the mailbox. "Thought I'd handle it for you since you're clearly overwhelmed. We can put it under my name. Just until things settle." I froze. He wasn't trying to fix our marriage. He was trying to trap me. Tie me back through something that mattered more than him. My mother's home. My last connection to where I came from. He knew exactly what he was doing. I stared at that photo for a long time. My hands were shaking. Then I called Dawn again. "Change of plans," I said. "I want a restraining order, and I want the deed locked down today." It's strange how fast people flip when they feel control slipping. 2 days after Daniel showed up at my mom's house with that smug little "I'm helping you" text, the tone of his messages shifted hard. Suddenly I was unstable, unreasonable, making things harder than they need to be. Nancy even called Dawn's office and tried to negotiate on my behalf. He shut that down in one sentence. "Unless you're my client or a licensed attorney, this call is over." God, I wish I'd seen her face. Back at the motel, I wasn't resting anymore. I was moving. Quietly, carefully, strategically. Every morning, I went for a walk to clear my head. Then I'd spend hours making calls, sending documents, printing screenshots, building timelines. I forwarded voice recordings from past holidays to Dawn, labeled folders by topic: medical neglect, financial gaslighting, emotional sabotage. And at night, I sat with a cheap glass of red wine and went through every photo on my phone. Not to reminisce, just to see. To really look at what I'd been living through. My smile shrinking year after year. The way I was always in the background of family photos, holding a tray of food or carrying coats. Never centered, never held. One photo in particular hit me like a slap. Christmas, 2 years ago. I had the flu, 102 fever, but I'm standing by the stove, sweating through my clothes, While everyone else sips wine in matching pajamas, Daniel is on the couch, playing on his phone. He captioned the photo when he posted it. "She's a trooper." Not "she's sick." Not "we told her to sit down." Not "we helped." Just "trooper." That night, I printed the photo and added it to the legal packet with one sticky note. She was sick. They were drinking. No one cared. 3 days later, Dawn filed the emergency order. By then, I'd already rented a studio apartment under my name. Tiny, but clean, with sunlight in the kitchen and a lock only I had a key to. I also opened a new bank account and rerouted all my tutoring income. Daniel still hadn't noticed I'd unlinked from the joint card. He was too busy trying to look like the victim. I got screenshots from a mutual friend, Facebook posts from Nancy full of vague jabs. Family should try to stay together, not run away when things get hard. I just pray for healing and accountability. Translation: we didn't expect her to fight back. I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was what came next. A letter, handwritten, slipped under the door of my motel room. No envelope. Just 3 sentences in stiff cursive. "Jenna, we understand you're upset. Let's talk this out before you throw away everything. Love, Ashley, and Nancy." I stared at it for 10 whole minutes before laughing out loud. Upset? I'd had organs shifting inside me from miscarriage and still made deviled eggs for Easter. Now I was upset? I crumpled the letter, tossed it. Then I called the locksmith and had the front door of my mom's house reinforced and rekeyed. I wasn't playing anymore. But the real twist, the moment everything truly flipped, came that Friday. I'd been sitting in the apartment folding laundry when my phone buzzed with an alert from the shared cloud storage Daniel and I had set up back when we were still pretending to be partners. He'd forgotten to log out. And he had just uploaded a video. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a screen recording. He was filming a call. Him and Nancy. They were talking about me. "You think she'll sign over the house?" Nancy asked. "She's too emotional, but if we make her think we're helping, like with the mortgage, she might let it go. She trusts too easily." "You know she won't make it alone, right?" Daniel laughed. "She's not built for independence." I paused the video. My jaw clenched so tight I thought a tooth might crack. They weren't just trying to manipulate me. They were plotting to take the only piece of my family I had left. And they were dumb enough to record it. I stared at the screen. No tears. No rage. Just clarity. I saved the video. Uploaded a copy to my private drive. Sent one to Dawn. And then I texted Daniel. Just one line. "Thanks for the evidence. You just made this very, very easy. I didn't even have to raise my voice. The truth did it for me." 3 days after I saved that screen recording of Daniel and Nancy plotting to take over my mom's house, Dawn filed an injunction. Emergency. We locked the property down. Legal freeze. Any attempts to transfer title or claim ownership would be flagged and denied. Daniel called me the next morning, 10 times in a row. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent him a Dropbox link to the video, labeled neatly, "Contempt of Trust, Audio and Visual Evidence." He didn't call again after that, but Nancy did. Oh, she did. The voicemail came in just after 9 p.m., her voice high and shaking like someone clinging to the last shred of control. "I don't know what you think this proves, Jenna. You're turning this into something it's not. This is family. Families work things out." I forwarded the voicemail to Dawn. He added it to the file. The court date came fast. Daniel tried to act cool during the proceedings. He wore his cleanest blazer, looked extra contrite, leaned into the whole, "we just miscommunicated" angle. Nancy didn't show. Ashley did. Tight-lipped, sitting in the back like a scolded student. But when Dawn played the recording in front of the judge, Daniel paled. Visibly. You could feel the air shift in the room. The judge leaned back, stared at Daniel, then looked at me. "Do you want to pursue financial damages or full asset division with restraining terms?" I didn't hesitate. full division, and I want the deed to my mother's house sealed with my name only. Daniel opened his mouth. Don raised a hand. We have proof of attempted coercion, emotional manipulation post-trauma, and collusion to defraud property ownership. It was over in 15 minutes. I walked out with the house. My name on the title, no strings attached, half of the joint savings, and a 6-month restraining order against Daniel and Nancy, effective immediately. But the real closure? That came a week later. A former co-worker of Daniel's, someone I barely knew, DM'd me on Instagram. Hey, just wanted you to know your ex's little Christmas takeover story is making the rounds at the office. Everyone's seen the court summary. Not a good look for a guy who used to brag about keeping his wife in line. I don't know why that hit so hard. Maybe because for the first time ever, I wasn't the one being talked over. I was heard. Loud, clear, documented. Nancy's social circle dried up. Turns out the family values crowd gets real quiet when you're caught scheming on tape. Daniel took a leave from work for personal reasons. Last I heard, Ashley was begging friends for help coordinating Easter brunch. Not my problem. Because now, I wake up in my mom's old house. The one I saved. The one they tried to steal. I brew coffee in her old kettle. I read books on the porch. And sometimes I still hear Nancy's voice in my head. But now it's faint. Background noise. Powerless. The last thing Daniel texted me, weeks after everything settled, was this. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. Because that's the thing. Happiness didn't come from getting even. It came from getting free. And if you ask me what I learned from all this, it's simple. Sometimes being quiet keeps you safe. But speaking up? That's how you get your life back. You don't owe anyone your silence. Not when they've already taken everything else. If you've ever been through something like this, or you're going through it right now, drop it in the comments. You're not alone and you don't have to carry it quietly anymore. And if you want more stories like mine, go ahead and subscribe. Not for the drama, for the closure. Thanks for listening. Truly.